Right then, welcome to track 6. Welcome to track 20. Bloody Lightskin boy, isn't it? We got Ghost in the house with your brother, the medical guy. What we got over there, soldier?
Oh man, that was a perfect intro. But we just got a happy Halloween from the medical guy. Dressed up as the Rock. We got the ice on the neck, $4. The ice on the wrist, $10. The Lululemon bag. Just impersonating the Rock. Can you smell what the Rock is cooking?
Right then, that's supposed to be funny, right?
Going dark.
Brother 6, going dark. Stay frosty.
Sweet.
Welcome, everybody, to track 20. This is the Lightskin War. Dak Prescott versus Jalen Hurts coming up in week 9 at 3:25 on Fox. Hopefully, YouTube TV doesn't strip it away from our TVs like it did most of Texas. I heard that was a massively wide complaint, across the Cowboys universe. But yeah, happy Halloween to everybody. I'm the ghost from MW, whatever you want to call it, Modern Warfare or anything. I've got my little knife handy as well. I thought about bringing a pistol on here, but then I remembered I'm not John Morant, and my job is to just shut up and talk, basically.
Shut up and run a podcast.
Shut up and run a podcast. Yeah, exactly. Well, of course, the medical guy joining us, and we're here to bring you guys a Shattering the Script take. And we're going to start off with first take with Stephen A. Smith talking about Dak Prescott having an impressive week, and we'll go straight into that and give our responses. So, without further ado, welcome Stephen A. Smith to the podcast. You are.
I mean, the reality is that, when I looked at him and the way that he's performing, the way they jumped out and all over the Los Angeles Rams.
What's this chat rubbing about?
I got to give credit where credit is due. I mean, the dead clock is right twice a day, Shannon. I mean, damn. I mean, I'm not going to sit up there and dog them all 16 weeks. A vast majority of the time, I have a reason to do so. Yesterday wasn't one of those times. The Rams are a different problem. We recognize that they are what they are for a reason. But when you look at Dak Prescott, I got to give credit where credit is due. Only quarterback in the NFL this season with 3 games completing at least 80% of his passes. That was one of the things that he did yesterday. I give credit where credit is due. Obviously, connecting with CeeDee Lamb, you see that chemistry continuing to elevate. Brandon Cooks, that's something that's developing as well. So we look at the Dallas Cowboys.
Right then, the bloke's a bloody idiot is basically what he's saying. Going in there talking about Dak Prescott. He's my dog. He's a brother. Been served with him in Task Force 141. 421. But no, yeah, I mean, Stephen A. Smith coming at it again. You never know what he's going to talk about, on first take. You never know who's going to take, Dak's side or if he's not. But obviously, Dak Prescott had an incredible, week 8, 25 of 31, and we'll get into Dak on track later. But yeah, your thoughts on, Stephen A. Stephen A. Smith kind of switched sides there.
They've infiltrated you.
They've infiltrated
your brain now.
The Swift effect.
All I gotta say about that, in the video passed around here lately of the Rock is just him going, "Shut up, bitch," and so that's really all I gotta say about that. When it's, I think there was a Twitter post today that we shared in the group where it was like a meme from SpongeBob, and it was, when Dak Prescott is bad, Twitter or X just has like thousands of people around the app. And then when Dak Prescott is good, it's like crickets. There's like 2 or 3 people around. So, I mean, that's really all I have to say about that is just be a little more of a steady path and not such of a roller coaster with Dak Prescott,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Keep the double standards, keep the same energy for all the other players. When Dak has a good game, praise him. When Dak has a crappy game, critique him fairly. And when other quarterbacks do the same thing, just keep it at the same energy. It's basically, it's as simple as that. And it's what Michael Parsons talks about on the edge is, double standards. And I actually listened to his podcast about the Rams after the Rams victory, and it was First time I've ever listened to it, about a 30-minute thing. So if you ever want to listen to Micah Parsons on a podcast, go check it out. It wasn't too bad. But yeah, so we'll transition into a little bit of the World Series take. Obviously Rangers are up 2-1. I just want to bring a headline on this and we'll go into the NFL recap. We're recording on a Tuesday night. It is Halloween night. The Rangers were up last I checked 5-0 after a Corey Seager 430-foot potator. So hopefully the Rangers go up 3-1 by the end of this podcast and, on their way to their first ever World Series. So hopefully my Rangers get it done in Arizona.
Currently it is 10-0 in the third right now, Jared.
So,
yeah. So got a little update from the analyst while we were starting the pod, and I saw it go off on my phone, and I was like, all of a sudden it was 3-0, then it was 5-0, then it was 10-0. So couldn't imagine a better start for the Rangers.
yeah.
Let's hope they keep it up. It seems Andrew Heaney has changed his ways from the ALCS and has figured out how to miss bats and miss barrels.
Pitch effectively.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the last thing I'll say on it is the umps have been terrible in every postseason game that I've watched. Not just the World Series, the ALCS was awful. It's just been atrocious. But the Rangers.
We might hear a little bit more about the umps later in the podcast. Just put that in the noggin there.
I wish I could do like the eyebrow thing that
I could do it. It's just like a little bit.
Yeah, all I got to say to the 10-0 lead right now is all right. Well, here we go. Week 8 NFL recap. We got a couple of headlines for you guys that'll run through before we get into the recap as well. So Seattle Seahawks take first place in the NFC West after the 49ers dropped 3 straight games heading into their bye. Will Levis shakes the NFL world with 4 touchdowns in his debut, finding veteran D-Hop on 3 touchdowns. So thank you to Will Levis's ex, that beautiful son of a bitch, breaking up with him and giving him a revenge tour. Chiefs take an L to Russ and Denver. To celebrate, Denver bumps Taylor Swift. And then, of course, Battle New York ends an abomination as the Giants blow it with less than a minute. And the refs were faster than a speed of light to stop the ball for the spike. And the Jets win 13-10. Houston had a rough week with an Astros series loss to the Rangers, a Texans loss to a winless Panthers, and the Cougars are blown out by Kansas State 41-0. It's a tough scene for the city of Houston. Hopefully they can bounce back. And, of course, the trade deadline, which happened today. Chase Young was traded to the San Francisco 49ers. Leonard Fournette traded to the Seahawks. Montez Sweat traded to the Bears for their 2024 second-round pick. Donovan Peoples-Jones traded to the Lions. And there might have been one more move that I was forgetting, but I think that covers pretty much everything on the trade deadline. But moving into our first game, Thursday Night Football, Buccaneers versus Bills. Bills take the victory 24-18. I almost got this score right. I predicted 26-16. But the Bills beat a team they were supposed to beat in this one. Allen's mobility was really the difference maker. He got, working on the grounds as well as the air. You can always tell he's going to air raid on his usually first 2 drives, and then you'll know what kind of Josh Allen you're getting. So he cooked this defense, and as he should, which it isn't a bad defense whatsoever. It's just if you can beat their defense, you clearly beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because Baker Mayfield isn't going to combat those elite quarterbacks. All their wins have been, rode strictly on the defense. So Archangel Gabriel Davis, big performance to aid the Buffalo aerial attack. I'm a little pissed because I made a trade for him before the game and they wanted to veto the trade. It didn't get vetoed, but I also didn't get the player by the time of the game. And that's a 12-man. You're going to need your guys, but won anyway by a large margin. But Bucks now completely fall down to earth, as we kind of expected they would in week 1. We're looking at that team. We didn't think it was that great. You can only beat you with the defense, like I mentioned earlier. And Evans and Godwin find the end zone. I figured they might be, trade candidates, but nothing happened. So nobody moves the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
There we go.
Yeah. And so next up, you got Vikings and Packers.
So to just touch a little bit on that Bucks and Bills game,
God.
I was just looking at just like the play-by-play and like the drives and whatnot. So the Bills scored a touchdown to make it 17-10. Okay. The Bucks next remaining drives until the game was pretty much over, I guess, was so a touchdown and right before half for the Bills. Punt 7 plays, punt 4 plays, punt 3 plays, punt 3 plays, and then finally a touchdown.
Oh my God.
So they were in it at half, and then it was just like one offense could play and one offense stopped playing. So I just thought
and
that
the
was
Hail Mary. What do you think about like not calling PIs on Hail Marys?
I feel like it's got to be like it was this past weekend, like pretty obvious. I feel like obviously you're gonna have to give a little leeway because when you get multiple receivers and DBs back there, there's gonna be contact. But like there can't be like, people basically hugging each other in the end zone. Like you gotta be like, okay, guys, like that's obvious. Like you can't sit there and be like, oh, there was hand fighting. Oh, there was contact. It was like, bro, dudes, like there were 2 dudes hugging like like a
the
player.
entire defense was building a Build-A-Bear. It was like cuddle with me.
Yeah. Pause. But yeah, it's a very weird thing right there because I know it's kind of contradictory because we talk about like, hey, you don't want the refs to affect the game that way, but at the same time, it's like, bro, there's no way they had a chance. You could say like, oh, they were making a play on the ball. It's like, no, they were.
Yeah, DPI is DPI.
Yeah, you might as well just tackle the game plan for a Hail Mary is like, hey, don't let any of their receivers get off the ground. Just like hold them. Like,
he had a bet against the spread there. That's why.
Oh, absolutely. But and especially watching it slow-mo makes it so much worse because you're like, dude, what are they looking at? Like, got 17 refs at every angle, and it's like, oh yeah, no, little hand fighting, we let that go.
A little scrubby.
So that was pretty crazy. Next game we're gonna go over 12 o'clock game, Vikings versus the Packers. Pretty shit game here. But kind of my takeaways. The Vikings win 24-10. I thought one of my big notes, especially for the Packers, is they got off to an awful start. They ran 9 total plays, accumulated for 2 total yards. So 3 and outs to start the game and a combined 2 yards. And so
it's a young team.
Yeah, and so it doesn't matter what team. You could play Iowa at a college, and you'd still probably get some more offense out of that than what was happening in that first and second quarter. And so I just think for Jordan Love, you've got to get a quicker start. You've got to get him rolling, get him in the rhythm like quick, or you've got to use Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon to just pound the ball and like, hey, take some pressure off of them and stuff.
A little bit more than 10 times for Aaron Jones would probably suffice.
And both of those guys are kind of they seem like they've used them more as bruiser backs now. It's like take some pressure off your quarterback and kind of get them in the rhythm. And then next, funny enough, I have is Jordan Love. Is he not the guy? Like with a question mark because he's not
a guy. Is he a nag?
Yeah, and so it's like what we saw in the preseason. Obviously, those were, and at the beginning of the season as well. You're playing, second string, third strings, all that, and then in the beginning of the season, some teams come out to the slow starts, kind of like the Bengals and stuff like that. And so we saw like how good he could be. So it's just interesting because his receivers are back. He has all his offensive weapons, at least playmaker wise. I know his O-line's a little decimated, but it just doesn't seem like he's in a very good rhythm. He's kind of in a little bit of slump right now. That's what I mentioned. They have a bad O-line right now. He's not, sorry, there's a bug up in here. But their O-line's been hurt. And he's just getting pressured all the time and can't really get in a rhythm. And then obviously for the Vikings, the big thing, Kirk Cousins getting hurt. That's awful to see for the guy. After, the big series came out talking about quarterbacks and all they do, he just seemed to like make himself more likable. Seems like a pretty normal dude. Because I mean, when we look at these quarterbacks and whatnot, we kind of hold them to a higher level than everybody, and they all make the joke about him like, oh, he shops at Kohl's and whatnot. Well, it looks like he looks like a dude like if he showed up to a buddy's birthday party, you'd be like, hey man, what's up? Like he just seems like a pretty laid back guy. And
you're like, holy shit, I see him at least 2 or 3 times a week in Five Below for some strange reason.
Yeah, like we saw him at TJ Maxx the other Saturday. Like,
yeah, what the hell? He was an uptown cheapskate.
Yeah. And so tough to see that, especially going into I think another contract year, and him being a little older. That just sucks to see for him. And especially how they have kind of played here lately. There was big receivers go out. They don't know if they're going to trade people, whatever. And so just tough to see. Then are the Vikings good with a question mark? I mean, they've won 4 games without Mr. Justin Jefferson, Jetta.
Was Jetta the problem?
Yeah. And if you look at it, all the Vikings losses are to okay to decent teams. I mean, we talked about the Bucs having a decent defense. They lost to them. They lost to the Eagles. They lost to the Chargers, who those are one of my I don't know teams. Right. And then they lost to the Chiefs. All 7 points or less. And so like none of their losses have been terrible, and they've been in games. And so I don't know. They could be pretty scrappy going forward. Well, they could have been. I don't really think
I'm not sure.
I don't think Josh Dobbs is the answer, but I mean, if you look at some of their weapons, I mean, Hawkinson, Osborne, Addison, Madison's been okay. Like they got some dudes that can make some plays, and having a quarterback that maybe could run around a little bit, they could be kind of sneaky. But that's just kind of my takeaway from that game. They were really fortunate just to get a win with that. I guess that's the silver lining in that game after losing their quarterback.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like Joshua Dobbs went from scrappy team to scrappy team in a matter of less than 12 hours.
Oh, yeah. But you can't imagine he's not feeling good. Like, oh, thank God I'm off the Cardinals.
Thank God. Hopefully that means K1 plays this upcoming game.
Dude, I saw a report that said that they were going to go with Clayton Tooney, the quarterback from U of H. And so I'm like, and they didn't trade Kyler. So it's like,
what's going on?
I
need to know.
Like you look into that collusion about like tanking. Like, I mean, if the quarterback's ready to go and you're still not playing him, it's like, man, that's it's a little iffy. So, but yeah,
I don't know. But I don't know why, but whenever I don't know if you saw this, but K1 came back to the field for practice, and the lady goes, I can't, like, she's like, thank God
oh,
you're
yes.
back. And he's like, glad to be back.
Yeah.
I'm like, when you're talking like that, he's starting at some point.
Yeah. So, but it also, her voice sounded like it was like she was trying to get chose. And it was like, why do you say it? It's like, why did you say it like that? Like, hey, hey, glad you're back. And it's like, hey, glad you're back. It's like,
well, I'll do the Chiefs Broncos, and I'll let you do the 49ers Bengals. 325 game. This is Denver winning against Kansas City, holding Kansas City to only 9 points. 2 things I hate in this world: Taylor Swift and Russell Wilson content, but you can't win them all. So we got Russell Wilson content this weekend. Mr. Unlimited was unlimited. And the Denver Broncos Stadium was unlimited with some Taylor Swift music post-game, which was a massively great troll. So Russ knocks down the deep state in Denver. So Chiefs are a great team, but, they also look human. This is their first divisional loss to the Denver Broncos since 2015 and breaking an eight-year stretch of losing to the Chiefs, Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. I believe Patrick Mahomes played sick. But Kelsey continues to underproduce when Taylor Swift is absent. I think he's averaging like 50 yards per game when she's not there, and over like 108 when games that she does attend. And bad news for Travis Kelce, that witch is going on tour. So I don't think you'll see a good Travis Kelce in a while. So if you have him on your fantasy team, trade high while you can. But yeah, I mean, Denver's shocking. Denver's shocking all over there in the Satanic near the Satanic Airport there in Denver. But this is shocking to me, but it's also just like the Chiefs have continued to show like weird signs like this. I mean, they showed it week 1 against Detroit. I understand they didn't have Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. I really thought this would be a team that would be a buyer at the deadline and get some guy like DeAndre Hopkins or a mid-level receiver that could at least be comprehensible for Patrick Mahomes in this passing game, because your number one is Rashee Rice, and then you've got what's his name, the dude from Clemson, Ross. I think he just got on the commissioner's exempt list. Kadarius Toney gets 20% snap percentage. Valdez Scantling isn't involved. Juju's doing TikToks in New England. Like your running backs is Pacheco and McKinnon, who's 33 years old. Like, you're asking Mahomes to do a lot, but like I said, this is the deep state team, so you never know when Vegas is going to make the call, and you never know what kind of spell Taylor Swift put on your fucking football team. So, but yeah, Denver takes down the Chiefs in Colorado. So, yeah.
With that one, I think it's the same problems that Lamar Jackson had a couple games ago that I talked about. It'd just be nice if receivers would catch the ball, or if receivers were worth a damn, really.
Right.
I mean, I'm with you. I just can't imagine how you don't go out and get like somebody. Like,
yeah,
I mean, one person I think would be great there. That was a former Cowboy that has just kind of been put under everybody is Cedric Wilson over there at Miami. Like, I mean, I think he signed like a 2-year, $21 million deal or something a couple years ago with the Dolphins, and he doesn't play. And I feel like that would have been like an easy person to get, and would immediately be on that roster a one. And so
arguably, yeah.
And so I think it's just crazy. But yeah, leading us into the other 325 game, the 49ers and the Bengals. We had the Cincinnati Bengals win 31-17. It was a close game at halftime. Joe Burrow seems like he's doing what Joe Burrow has done for the past couple of years, is suck for about the first 4 games and then figure out how to play football again. And I know this time he had more of an injury, and it wasn't, he just didn't play in the preseason. But it really is kind of just funny how, you start the season off and it's like, hey, we're just going to take a break for the first 4 weeks and then, then win the next 4. But, the big thing here, Joe Burrow looked great. Jamar Chase, 7-11, always open. Same thing. I think he had 10 catches for a hundo. Yep. I think since that's came out, he's got to be leading the NFL in targets.
Got to be close, yeah.
Because, I mean, I think he had 10 catches and the next closest was 5. And so who knows how many other targets they had. But, the game was close at half. And like we talked about right before we started the pod, is that the game was really close. And then they went into the second half and, Brock Purdy kind of struggled. He turned the ball over a couple times via the interception. And then towards the end of the game, when it seemed like they were making a little bit of a comeback, he fumbled it. And so it's just kind of, going to show towards some of the 49ers struggles, like how well is he as a quarterback without all those weapons, and how well of a team are they without, having every weapon top notch at every position they have. Now, I did see, I don't know why they went and signed another D end with,
Chase
Young. They've got Chase Young, Bosa, Randy Gregory. Hell, they probably called DeMarcus Ware and everybody else up to get up there, but it's like, hey, you could probably go get another receiver.
Yeah, they called David Irving and they were like, hey, where you at, bro? Like, you still on that dough?
So yeah, somehow they end up with TJ Watt, JJ Watt, and all of a sudden they've got 17 defensive ends rushing the quarterback. But it's just interesting to see how this team's lost. The funny thing is they beat Dallas, stomped us, and then proceed to lose 3 in a row. And it was just like, I mean, as a Cowboys fan, I'm sitting here like, dude, what the hell? Like,
what are we doing?
Like I know Debo's like a big factor, but like I didn't think he's not like that much of a difference maker. And then, obviously they lost the left tackle a little bit and whatnot, but it is just a very interesting thing, but also shows that like, hey, this is the NFL. Like, you get lackadaisical or you don't play as well as you could, like you could lose, and you could lose to anybody. So that's just kind of the take I have on there is, Joe Burrow played really good. Bengals looked really good and seem to be rounding into shape. And then the 49ers, I mean, last 3 games, they've looked rough. Like they haven't really looked good. And so, that's just what happens. What can happen in the NFL if you don't play good, you get beat. So
That's right.
Yeah,
I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Well, let's recap quickly the Sunday night football game. I understand that this was a crap game that really nobody was interested in. But a little updated record. The Rook and the Kid are both at 6-2. We're not doing an amazing job of getting our predictions out to you guys, but the texts are there behind the scenes on iMessage. Who you got winning tonight? Chargers. All right, but they've been pretty easy to tell so far. I mean, besides Miami and Philadelphia and the Cowboys and 49ers, looking at it before the game started, it wasn't that difficult to really pick a winner in a lot of these. I think the biggest risk I took was taking the Raiders versus the Steelers, which was an absolute crap bowl. So from previous track, the Rook and the analysts, we both picked the Chargers to win. And Chargers win 30-13 versus the Bears and Tyler Bagent. They did their job versus a Division II quarterback. It's the first Division II quarterback to start in a game since 1950. So shout out to him. That's a hell of an accomplishment. I'm not kidding about that. That's, it's very difficult to be in a division like that, even though it is still relevant college football, and be able to start an NFL game, especially when your dad's a 28-time arm wrestling champion. But Chargers continue to lose wide receivers with injuries. I'm not sure what the diagnosis is on Joshua Palmer. I'm sure we'll get into that possibly in the 2-minute drill. And then, they just kind of remain an average team to me. I don't really know what to think of them. Kellen Moore is hit or miss, a lot like he was with the Cowboys. But I really thought Herbert would impress me more this season. It is a long season. Legends are made in November and December. So we'll see what happens with the Chargers. But this was expected. I mean, this was a very easy win for the Chargers. Not really much to say about it. But if you have any recap on the Sunday night football game, or if I don't even know if you even watched it, I wouldn't even blame you. But
yes, I watched it. I really have nothing to add to the game because it was that much of kind of like a, snooze fest. I do have one question for you.
Yeah.
So you're the Chicago Bears, right? You have 2 first-round picks, correct? Possibly number 1 and 2, I believe.
Yeah, I think right now it's like 2 and 3.
Yeah. What are you doing? If you're couch GM, what are you doing? Because it looks like Justin Fields is still going to be out for a little bit. I know people don't fully understand what a dislocated thumb on a throwing hand means, but that's not like a jammed finger. Like the whole thumb came out of place, and that's not supposed to happen. So he's going to be out for a little bit. And, I just want to get your thoughts on what you would do as a GM if you say you got the 1 and the 2 pick, not even the 2 and the 3, the 1 and the 2. What do we do?
Are we talking like right now or when the draft comes around?
I
guess the trade deadline's done. So
yeah, So the trade deadline's done. So you can't trade them away right now.
Here's what I would do if I was the Chicago Bears. And this is as a person that isn't the most confident analyst, if you will, in the world of Justin Fields as a football player. I still think he struggles reading defenses. As a GM, you're kind of living in denial here. You got to be careful of that. Justin Fields doesn't know anything to Chicago. And I mean, in retrospect, he doesn't. And you've kind of wasted his first 3 years with crap teams. I would dish him off to a team in the offseason and to a reputable franchise and see if you can get the wheels moving. And then I would take your chances. Maybe you'll probably gas up another first and second round pick. But you also brought DJ Moore over to join Justin Fields. So you're in a predicament. So what I believe will happen is that they'll keep Justin Fields and they'll maybe even trade back in the draft. But I think they go after at least Marvin Harrison Jr. That's for sure what I would do in this draft. When you're at pick 2 and 3, Brock Bowers is a projection as well. And those mid-round, first-round picks, the tight end from Georgia, Baby Kittle, as they call him, and not the little fart that's clout chasing on social media. But yeah, so if it were me, I'm dishing off Justin Fields and I'm going after a guy like Drake May and Marvin Harrison, and I'm pairing your 1 and 2, and you got 1, 2, and your little Amari Cooper rental and there in DJ Moore, and start scrapping up some wins. And by trading Justin Fields, you can scrap up another 1 and first and 2 round picks, maybe a third, depending on what the value is for him, and stack up on offensive line depth. But yeah, that would be my strategy. I mean, you already traded for Montez Sweat to patch up your defensive line. Your defense isn't bad. Jalen Johnson wasn't dealt at the deadline, which is good for your young team. So yeah, that's what I would do if I was the Bears GM.
Yeah, nice. I was just wondering what you were thinking. That Montez Sweat trade made about 0 sense to me to the Bears, man. I saw that and I was like, oh, we got traded, and then it was like to the Bears, and I was like, why?
They're making a playoff run. Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like,
I mean, they're borderline tanking.
Yeah, for a second too. Like, it's like it'd be one thing if it was like a fourth, maybe. But like a second, like that's for them, that's a pretty high. That's what that's 35th.
I believe Montez Sweat is a contracted player. So you're spending so that's what I'm saying. So you're spending a second round pick on a contracted player who's C+ to B- in productivity. So
yeah, and he's going to be the only one on that D line. So like he's leaving Jonathan Allen or whoever and Chase Young and some of the really good front 4 or 5, and he's going to have to be the dude for the Bears. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. Yeah. That even makes it look worse now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't like it one bit. So all right, let's get into our predictions for the upcoming week. We're going to start with our Sunday Night Football predictions, our score predictions, and why. We got the 5-3 Buffalo Bills versus the 4-3 Bengals. This is a big one. Pause. This is one I've been really looking forward to on the schedule now that Burrow and Cincinnati, you're kind of back to their magic, and you're not knowing what you're going to get with the Buffalo Bills. You don't know who's moving the wagons each game. If it's not Josh Allen, it's usually nobody. So they go as Josh Allen goes. But my prediction is I got the Bengals winning this game 23-21. I don't think the Bills have completely figured out their offensive woes. Their identity is constantly transitioning. I would call them the transgender NFL team.
Jesus.
The Cincinnati Bengals are starting to figure things out. Their wide receivers are healthy. Joe Mixon's been productive on the ground. Now, Leonard Fournette was signed. I'm not sure how much we're going to see him in this game, but he's a fat ass. So
I was going to say, is he a fullback or?
Yeah, he's going to be. We signed you to be an H-back, Leonard. But yeah, Burrow and the Bengals are starting to cook. Healthy wide receivers, like I mentioned. The Bengals defeated the Bills in 2022 playoffs, which I think is noteworthy. So this could be a personal game for the Bills, and that was a snow game. And I expect Burrow to play well against good teams like I predicted that he would against the 49ers. And back-to-back wins against playoff teams would be a mighty performance for a quarterback who is considered, top 5, top 3 in this league. I got the Bengals winning 23-21. And Damar Hamlin, I pray that you are active in this game and you stay on the sidelines, because this is we don't need anything. We don't need any funny business in this game. So if you catch my drift. So this last time they played, disaster struck. But so what are your predictions on this game?
I'm with you. I think the Bengals win this. A lot of things you said we've talked about is, the Bills, they seem so hot or cold, so roller coastery. one game, Josh Allen is throwing for 350 yards and 4 TDs, and then one game he's throwing for, 240 with 2 TDs and 3 picks and a fumble, and it's like it just seems like they almost can't get out of their own way sometimes. I think it's really kind of disservice to James Cook, who I think averages like 12 carries a game. I think I don't know. I feel like that would help Josh Allen a little bit more because it would let him use his big ability with, his arm and being able to get out of the pocket and do some play action stuff, man. But I'm kind of with you. I think the Bengals actually win this by a little more. I'm gonna go with 28-21 Bengals. I think they win it by more than 2. I think they're just gonna be able to play just better than the Bills this game. They seem to be rolling right now.
Yeah. I agree. Hopefully we're both right. We've done pretty well in the past, honestly. But yeah, so you got the game in Germany, Miami Dolphins at Kansas City Chiefs. We got the spread at -2.5. What are your predictions on the game in Nazi Germany?
Yeah, so I got the Wiener Schnitzel game.
Wiener Schnitzel.
I for some reason, you say follow the money with Vegas. I feel like you need to, just ball that spread up and throw it out the window because I don't think this game's gonna be close, man. I really don't. I think I have the Dolphins winning 35-20. And there's a few reasons why that I'll get to later on in the podcast. But I think that defense for the Chiefs is banged up a little bit. Some guys that are big time contributors for the Chiefs defense are a little banged up. I also read a report to where the Chiefs are leaving on Thursday. So
right, they're only getting 1 day of practice, right?
Yeah, and I mean we've talked about this before. It doesn't make sense unless you just ain't got no money. Then I guess say that, go hop on a Spirit airline and go over there or whatnot. And so I think that's really going to hurt them doing that. And so and by the way we just saw the Chiefs receivers play, I mean they're about to play a better team in the Dolphins with a better defense, and maybe they'll find some better gloves over in Germany, but I don't know. They're just not. The receivers are just so bad and whatnot. I just don't think they overcome it. And I think, with Steve Spagnuolo over there with Kansas City, they like to blitz a lot. However, with Miami defense, I mean, when you blitz a lot, you've either got to run man up front or you've got people dropping. Very few people dropping back in the zone. And that's just going to be real hard with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and then Raheem Mostert. And whoever, what's his name, Chase Claypool playing tight end out there, I think it's just gonna be really hard for them to defend that, and I don't think this game's gonna be close. I think it's gonna be kind of a blowout, and that's just kind of what I have going. I don't know, it's a weird feeling, but
right,
I just don't see the Chiefs playing this game very well.
Did the same thing happen to the Bills when they got 1 day of rest? Did they lose their game in London? I can't remember.
Yeah, they played the Jaguars, wasn't it? They played the Jaguars.
The Jaguars won.
And they got blown out. And so
you're onto something there.
I mean, it is like
maybe,
hey, the science, the science plays. Or what
well, hold on. Let me pull up the stocks.
Clears.
If we pull up the stocks, we might be able to follow the money. No.
Yeah.
Let me log into my Hustlers University real quick.
Exactly. So I have 8:30 a.m. Miami Dolphins 35, Chiefs 20 for the Sunday morning Wiener Schnitzel game. So I'll throw it back over to you for the 12 o'clock game.
Yeah, for sure. Seattle Seahawks at Baltimore Ravens. The spread is -5.5. So I think Lamar uses his legs to scramble the Seattle defense, who just got Leonard Williams. I think limiting the turnovers is key to this game for Lamar because he's been very good at limiting them so far in the first 8 weeks. He's playing like an MVP this year. As long as their wide receivers catch the ball. We got a dilemma over there in Baltimore. Shit in my mouth. Odell Beckham Jr. Is playing like he eats. The saying, you are what you eat. Well, if you eat shit, then you are shit. So Odell Beckham Jr., struggling with those injuries, frustrated with not getting a reception. I think it was because of the defensive PI, pass interference that was not called, or that was called on him when he was trying to get his touches and he's throwing his helmet on the ground. just very, I would say Des Bryant-like, but Des Bryant was very, I wouldn't say there's a difference between that moment with Odell and, Des Bryant being passionate, but they're both very passionate players and they want the ball in their hands. What Odell Beckham just has to understand is that he's 31 years old and his time has passed. So him getting his 10 targets is not relevant anymore. But I think Geno can only take you so far if you're the Seattle Seahawks, and I love him. He hasn't wrote back yet. Pause on the love part. I expect a large workload in this game for K9. Pause on that as well. But with the Leonard Williams trade, I really, like I said, Geno Smith can only take you so far. I don't see Geno Smith winning a Super Bowl, let alone getting past juggernauts like the 49ers and Eagles. And, just depending on who decides to show up, the Cowboys, so I've got the Ravens 30. It's a high scoring game. Ravens 34-28, getting the dub over there, covering the spread.
Wow.
Yeah. So Ravens are impressive. They didn't trade for any running backs, but they got a system down, and it doesn't matter. It's the next man up mentality over there.
Yeah, they've looked good even in this past game. I believe this week they look great. They still won, and it seems like even when they play bad, they still figure out a way to win. So good teams over there.
All right.
Yeah, the thing with Odell, it's like you're saying between Dez and Odell is like Dez was doing that and was still good.
Yeah, exactly.
Odell's getting paid like what, $19 million a year, and I don't think he has. We have the same amount of touchdowns as him. So, so yeah, it's like I'd be throwing my helmet and probably catching touchdowns with him. So
I think it'd be safe to say that Odell Beckham Jr.'s incentives are not going to come into his paycheck this year.
Yeah, I'd have to, double that down, put money on that, huh?
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, we'll lead us into. Are we wanting to go into Cowboys Eagles yet?
No. So we're gonna go to the Monday Night Football.
Okay, cool. So I'll go into the Monday Night Football.
With butt control.
Chargers versus the goddamn Jets.
Yeah.
We have the Chargers as a 2-point favorite. Okay. I don't think that's going to happen. I think I have the Jets winning 21-17. And I think, I don't know, I think Zach Wilson is a better quarterback than what sometimes the offensive game plan shows. I think that he's better when he's kind of having to play a little bit of backyard football and run around and sling it, throw it downfield, throw it across his body. I know it's kind of unorthodox, but it just seems like when he can create stuff, that's when he's better. So I think they really need to let it swing against his defense. Defense this season hasn't been very well. And so I think that'd be a good way to get them going, get him going, have him play better. Jets are kind of the same as the Vikings to me right now. It's like, are they good?
I don't know.
Are they bad? I don't know. But if you look at their losses this year, they've lost to the Cowboys and the Chiefs and the Pats. Okay, obviously the Patriots, that's kind of a bad loss, but like
it was raining that game.
Yeah, and historically,
Zach Wilson sucks in the rain.
Zach Wilson can't handle wet balls. So
yeah, well, you can handle wet. No.
Whoa. But yeah. So their other two losses were against very good teams, and so I just don't know if they're good or not. And with Herbert, I think he's very good. I think his defense is very bad. However, Herbert has missed a lot of easy throws this year. And he's got a lot of dudes around him that can play. However, it seems like his wide receivers have the injury bug right now, and Quentin Johnson can't seem to separate from anything. But that was kind of the thing with him in college, is he was a big receiver that could go get the ball. And if you're going to ask him to be Keenan Allen, that's not going to be it. So it'll be interesting how they use him this game. And then the same thing for the Chargers. Are they bad or are they good? I don't know. Like
great question.
To me, Herbert kind of reminds me a little bit of Josh Allen as well. Like last game, he didn't really like light it up like throwing it down the field, but it was a lot of completions to get people in space and where they could make a play. And he goes whatever it was, like 31 for 38 for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Right. On prime time.
Yeah. Or then he has a game like the Cowboys where it's like, dude, like you are just missing guys. It's not even like you're not pressured, you're not doing anything crazy. It's just like there are 2 or 3 throws like you just missed, looking like Jimmy G out there. And so it's just interesting. I don't know if these 2 teams are good or if they're bad.
This is a dangerous game to predict.
Yeah. I would. This is probably one I would definitely not, if I was a betting man.
Not touching.
I'm not touching this game at all. So, however, if you want to listen to me, I got the Jets 21, and I got the Chargers 17.
And I don't dislike that one bit. I think that's fine. Yeah. I mean, Zach Wilson, he historically this year played his best game against the Chiefs, who are in that same division, earlier this year. So we'll see. The Chargers defense can get lit up. We saw with Dak Prescott. Obviously, Zach Wilson's not as good as Dak Prescott, but yeah, that's a trap game for you bettors out there, for you boys in Vegas who thinks you can make the call, but you can't.
Yeah, I am not a fan of betting on that game whatsoever, man.
Oh yeah, dude, 100%. All right, tracking the boys. We got the Cowboys versus the Rams in week 8. Cowboys win 43-20. And this game was played in AT&T. I feel like we haven't been in AT&T in a while. Of course, we are now moving to 5-2, heading into the Eagles in week 9, who are 6-1 with the best record in football. But before we get into predictions for that game, we'll recap what we saw, and just to kind of give y'all a couple highlights from this game and something to go off of when we analyze the offense and defense here. We had that Deron Bland interception for a touchdown, the pick 6. That's 9 interceptions in 24 games. Diggs had 12 in his first 24. Deron Bland currently has more touchdowns than Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, Tyler Lockett, Jalen Waddle, and Calvin Ridley. And if you're not a football fan and you're just listening because you think I'm hot, Deron Bland is a cornerback and the other guys are receivers. So, but Lamb sets career high for receptions and scores 2, 12 receptions, 158, 2 tutties. Cooks get involved in the deep game with a 25-yard touchdown catch. And those were kind of the major highlights in this game. We had a typical Dak pick as well. With it was double tips, tip to the line and tip to McKeon's hand. Why we throwing at McKeon in the red zone, I don't know. But yeah, let's recap our defense first. I'll let you have the first go at it. What you saw from this defense or from this offense, any positive signs in the play calling? How did you think the receivers performed? Just kind of your whole spiel on the offense in this week 8 performance.
Okay, for the offense, I thought it looked great. I thought it looked like Mike McCarthy and Schottenheimer and Dak had 2 weeks to prepare. And it really looked like they went to Twitter and were just like, yeah, maybe we could try some of these things and do all this. But I think I read a stat to where like in the games prior to this game, there were motion on 18 plays throughout the first 6 games. And in this game alone, there were 18 plays with pre-snap motion. And so it's like, man, it's crazy when you move receivers around, you can read the defenses and stuff like that. So that was an insane stat to me. Just because like, I feel like you see that in every game and then it's like Cowboys don't do it. I thought, CeeDee Lamb was incredible. I thought, like you said, Brandon Cooks getting involved. I mean, that wasn't anything but a little double hitch route up the sideline. It wasn't anything crazy, but guess what? It makes defenders think like, oh crap, now we got to put a safety kind of over there in case they burn us deep. And so I think there was a video that Rex Ryan put out on whatever show they're on where he said, and it's kind of something, I can't remember what it's not Get Up. It's some
type of ESPN show.
Yeah, it's with Orlovsky, Dan Orlovsky as well. But he mentioned, and I thought this was a super good point, is that, when you get into the receivers, you're talking about that X receiver, wide receiver, H receiver, stuff like that, and he puts it in, I guess, more brutal terms, is how we've stopped putting Michael Gallup at the X receiver by himself and started putting CD or started putting Cooks over there by themselves because they can handle it. He goes on to say that Gallup is not a very good wide receiver or football player, and I'm like, I don't want to go that far.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't go that far.
You've got two receivers that at this point in their careers can separate better than him. So why would you put him on an island by himself? And so I thought that was a really good point to look at. And then we saw in this game, even though it didn't really show up on the stat sheet, but Jalen Tolbert getting more involved, getting more reps on offense and taking some of those away from Michael Gallup. Hopefully it causes a competition to where all those receivers can kind of, build off each other and whatnot. But I thought, game plan was great. I thought they made, excellent adjustments. There was a stat that came out that, they threw for 4 TDs. The Rams had only allowed 4 passing TDs all year. So I know the media is going to say the Rams are just doo-doo dog shit now, but you can't look past that we literally, throw the same amount of pass TDs on them in one game as that they've allowed all year. And I thought we've talked about it with the kid, about how, offensive game planning in the past, it looked like, hey, it doesn't look like they trust Dak very much, or, playing like we don't want to throw picks. These last 2 games, it's like they've kind of moved off that point. I mean, you're seeing like throws that are tight window throws, like throws you got to put on the money or it's a pick or an incompletion, timing routes that, you got to be spot on and within, tenths of a second or it's not right. And then, trusting Dak with his feet to get out of the pocket, to move around and stuff like that. And so, and this is kind of a take I've taken from like working in sports for a little bit now, is like sometimes, you game plan, you scout, you do all this, and obviously that's a good thing, but basically developing your game plan around like what your guys do best and combat it with what you're game planning from them instead of just game planning for their weakness. Okay. Yeah. What I mean by that, and I'm sure you can understand, but like Dak's good moving around the pocket, throwing it down the seam to a tight end, having CeeDee Lamb move around and creating plays rather than, just, super conservative play calling. And I think it's something they're going to, and they've got to be successful, is start playing more to Dak Prescott's strengths rather than playing towards their defenses, the opposing defense's weaknesses. And so I think that's going to be something to look for moving forward. But overall, I talked a lot, but it's just nice to talk good about this offense. Yeah. But I thought everything looked super in sync, and I really, outside of maybe the running game, but they didn't really need it that much, and that's a good thing. Outside of that, I thought the offense looked great, and it just looked like they finally sat down and just like, hey, we're going to do different things and see how it works out. And it worked out really well. I know I talked a lot, but what are your thoughts on the offense? What you got, man?
No, so I think you hit it right on the nail, and it's something that I did not even think of. And I want to reiterate that point, is when you said that the Cowboys offense should play to their offensive players' strengths, not the opposing team's weaknesses. That is an incredible point. Because what do we praise so much with all these other teams like Burrow, like especially Jalen Hurts, who I think disguises the real kind of player that he is, not saying that he's bad, but just saying that he might not be as good as where he's at. Purdy, attacking his strengths in the offense, getting those quick throws out. And now we've seen it's discoverable when you remove certain players from the equation in their scheme. But for Dak, just if you think on our last couple of games to start this year, we don't know. We're an interchangeable transitioning identity to where every game we're adapting to what the defense, yes, is giving us, which can be a good thing, but we're also not playing to our strengths, which the Cowboys attacked in the last 2 games. That being, hey, we have an elite number 1 wide receiver and number 88 CeeDee Lamb. Whenever Dak targets CeeDee Lamb, his passer rating and efficiency is out the roof. And so is CeeDee Lamb's. And we saw it on that first catch with Lamb catching it over the middle, 5 yards down the field, breaking it off on 2nd and 17 for an 18-yard gain. And you're like, all right, we'll do that the whole game. CeeDee Lamb needs 10-plus targets every single week. I don't care what team you're playing. I don't care if they have the best secondary in the league. I don't care if it is the 49ers. There is not one receiver that is better on the Cowboys roster than CeeDee Lamb. There are not many receivers in the NFL that are better than CeeDee Lamb. Give him his flowers. Give him his touches. And as far as Dak goes, Dak is the most – you got to know your quarterback. If you're a GM, if you're an offensive play caller, you got to know that Dak is one of the most confident throwers of the football in the NFL, and that he's a very aggressive thrower, and he has a history of pushing the ball downfield and efficiently. So you got to be able to trust Dak. And so far this season, outside of one game, you certainly can. Certainly. And that interception, I wish they would change that stat, because yes, it is on him, throwing it at the line of scrimmage, but it's tipped twice. And, those you don't want to see on a quarterback's record. I do like that idea, but fantastic point there. And to kind of keep going with the offense, I want to bring this up because I said this probably around the preseason or week 1. And I said, we're going to see Luke Schoonmaker, our second-round tight end, catch a bootleg pass for 10 or more yards on 2nd and 10 in a meaningless game and go, attaboy Schultz, or attaboy Schoonmaker.
No, you had it right.
Got it.
You had it right.
Yeah, we had it right. We got the same guy. But
yeah.
We got it. We finally got a Schoonmaker bootleg pass in the flat for 10 yards. And I didn't even say attaboy Schoonmaker. I just went, oh my God, it happened. And I texted you guys in the chat. So I thought that was hilarious. But fantastic job by the Cowboys. Continue to get CeeDee Lamb involved. That throw by Dak Prescott in the end zone to start the scoring blunder was incredible. That was an absolute Dak dime. But an even better catch by Jake Ferguson. It was a one-handed grab right on the nose of the football. And the celly on that,
oh my God,
was hilarious, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I put it on my Twitter. I was like, I got to shout out the dog. He took some dance lessons online at Wisconsin, which is a little bit sus. Reminds me of Terry Hoyts making fun of those freak bags, have you ever seen the other guys?
Yeah.
We used to make fun of those guys or whatever. But
you took dancing lessons just to
yeah. You learned to dance sarcastically? Yeah, I guess. So, fantastic performance by the offense going into the game versus Philadelphia, and I'll touch on it more in depth. Do more of that. But to transition us into the defense, of course, I got another one correct that I've spoke about in the past, that we spoke about in the last podcast with the analysts. If you get pressure to Matthew Stafford, he makes mistakes. And then special teams would make big plays this week because we had the punt block last year, and we had the block punt this week as well. So double check marks on that, but I'll let you kind of take away the defense, and now I'll close this out on the defense, and we'll move into the Dak on track.
All right, I'll keep it a little shorter on the defense. That way you can talk a little bit. But I thought the defense looked great. I think that the defense obviously does well when they're in attack mode, and it seems like that's why it's so great when we get up early. It's because the defense, it almost looks like they take a deep breath in. They're like, oh, relax, and then just go get them. Right. I thought Micah Parsons looked insane. Deron Bland making another interception for a pick six, like you touched on a little earlier. I thought they just did a really good job of, when mistakes were made, they capitalized on them. Matt Stafford, was a little off on the timing due to the pressure, throws a little behind Cooper Kupp. Deron Bland catches it and takes it instead of, sometimes the DBs can miss it and stuff like that. I think it's really well that they capitalize on those mistakes. Shout out to the analyst for talking about Marquise Bell. Yes. I think PFF or whatever grading system came out and said since he started at linebacker a few games ago, it said he's the highest rated linebacker in the NFL, which is nuts. So, you want to talk about hitting the nail on the head with that guy. shout out to the analyst. He really did that, and he just keeps playing well. And then, really touching on DaRon Bland again, man. I mean, how he's kind of evolved from like last year. He was more of a slot guy,
Right.
and everything like that, and just seeing him develop. He got put into I think the analyst actually spoke on this again. Is that his first game after Diggs got hurt, he wasn't the best, right? And he spoke on actually getting a week of practice playing the number one corner. And since then, he's been outside of the 49er game, which nobody on the Cowboys team looked great. Outside of one game, he's looked phenomenal. And, I think that right there kind of takes a little pressure off. It's almost like we really don't have much of a drop off from Trayvon Diggs, which is insane. Because now it allows Stephon Gilmore to be that kind of 2 DB or cornerback. And he's got to be one of the better number 2 cornerbacks in the league still. And so it's just cool to kind of see how he's transitioned from literally last year being the 4th cornerback on the team. And then now he's arguably one of the better cornerbacks in the league right now. And having to guard people, if you look at the receivers they faced in the last few games,
the white boy.
You could say Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. Prior to that, we've had to face Debo. We've had to face Ayuk. Kittle, for example. He's not a receiver, but I'm trying to think of the other teams who play. Garrett Wilson, he's the number 1. Can't talk about the Giants. They don't have any receivers. But
careful, just double standards.
Yeah, double standards. But just going and seeing how he's transitioned, how he's really developed into a top-notch corner is pretty cool seeing Insane and whatnot. And then I think I saw, shout out to Mozzie Smith. It looked like he's progressed. I know he's still, he's gotten to where like technique is getting better, it's just going to have to be him. Like he's going to draw 2 people. Like it just is what it is. And I think once he figures once he figures out scheme and I guess just playing knowledge and game plan of how to hey, just you're gonna absorb 2 people. That is what it is. But if you can hold your ground and somehow not get driven back or anything, like dude's gonna be a playmaker for plays that don't show up in the box. And so it really is just it was good to just see them kind of in attack mode. We got up early and it was like, it was like, hey, we're gonna let the leashes loose and y'all go play football. And it was like that seems like when the defense is really good. But that was kind of my take on it. I thought, DaRon Bland and Marquise Bell were just they were insane this weekend.
Yeah, and you make a good point on DaRon Bland, and he has 3 pick sixes this year. I think the franchise record is 4. So fantastic job by Bland. Getting that extra week of practice, getting in there, and really adjusting. And not only does it lift the weight off of a guy like Trayvon Diggs, who was definitely heartbroken after he tore his ACL. He was having off to a great start in the season. But, we talked concerns about Stephon Gilmore, not being able to be that number 1 guy. We said that he wasn't, capable really of being that number 1, but he's a solid number 2. And that we couldn't count on him to step up to be that number 1 guy to lock down guys like Cooper Kupp, Nacua, Garrett Wilson, you name it, Keenan Allen, and all of them. And so now what you get is a DaRon Bland who comes in there with his midsection slanging and locking down most receivers that he's played against. I think his and I wanted to you talked about it a second ago, and I wanted to confirm it with you. The PFF rated him he was the 4th highest graded players in week 8 versus the Rams at 78.5. Marquise Bell was rated a 90.2 in this game and is officially PFF's number 1 graded linebacker after 8 weeks with a 90.0 rating. So yeah, good on you for bringing that up as well. Parsons had a fantastic game. I'm glad you spoke about Mozzie Smith. But, this scheme, man, for some reason, every time we play Matthew Stafford, that dude just gets absolutely, it's like he's playing, he's fighting in the octagon versus like John Jones, and he's Henry Cejudo. And like last year, just getting absolutely brutally beat up. We had the fumble recovery touchdown last year with the block punt. This year we had the pick six with the block punt for a safety. Just absolutely explosive. We've got the Los Angeles Rams number the past 2 years. So yeah, I mean, this defense, man, flying around. We got a good test, coming up against the Eagles. Hopefully they're ready. Hopefully they're angry. Hopefully they're pissed because they talk about it. And they talked about how pissed they were about the 49ers game. That was after the fact. Well, I'm hoping that going into Philly, they come with this attitude with physicality. They're not going to have Leighton Vander Esch holding it down in the middle with kind of a bulkier body. Marquise Bell's going to have to step up once again and get physical. Mozzie Smith's going to have to get a good push against arguably the number one offensive line. But yeah, let's get into our Dak on track segment. And we'll start, of course, with our passing chart presented to you by Next Gen Stats, who we are not affiliated with, obviously. But here we go. 25 of 31, 304 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception with a video playing on the sidebar with a plus 16.3% CPOE. Now, if the analyst was on this podcast, you could argue he'd be jizzing at the
glaze,
the camera. He'd be glazing. We'll cut that out. I'm just kidding. But he'd be glazing at the screen right now because look at those touchdown dots over the middle of the field. 4 dots deep downfield towards the boundary and intermediate. And this is exactly what I said last week with the analyst on the podcast, is that if you really want Dak Prescott to thrive, you got to get him cooking in the intermediate, deep to middle range, and then deep down the boundary, especially. Obviously, that far right one is Brandon Cooks. Closer in, that was a CD Lamb scramble drill touchdown. Fantastic find there. One of the middle was Jake Ferguson. And, of course, that last one, I don't even remember. Oh, CD Lamb on the little skinny post route where he cooked him one-on-one.
Yeah, that was a missile.
Ball. That was a missile by Dakota Rain Prescott. But I see a lot of green dots. I see a lot of blue dots. And so for my grade for Dak Prescott, this is going to be his highest grade of the season, and rightfully so. An A+. He was lethal in his aerial attack, threading needles, connecting deep, feeding his playmakers. He was incredible pre-snap, which I think should not go unnoticed. His pre-snap was incredible. He followed through post-snap as well. Highly mobile in the pocket and under pressure was brilliant on third down. So A+ for my boy. As the Dak disciple, I give the Dak A+. He played like Jesus this week. So
that passing chart is definitely something you could glaze over. And so going into the grades as well, I give him an A+. And some of the same reasons as yours. Couple I want to add in there is, we talked about when he played the 49ers, how it seemed like that was the one time we saw Dak look like it was it just didn't look like there was much fight. After this game, looking at the score, you wouldn't think it, but in the first 5 plays, Dak was sacked 3 times.
Right.
And so it was cool to see the offense and Dak and all that just not get discouraged and get back to here we go again and stuff like that, and then go down and boop boop boop, no fear, stepping up in the pocket, throwing that ball at Jake Ferguson. And we've seen it throughout Dak's career. That's where he thrives, is kind of being a risk taker, a little bit of a controlled gunslinger. And when he has those opportunities, making those throws over the seam where when he throws it, we're all like, oh, okay, we're okay. It's like
you can't see the other side. You're like,
you throw it and you're like, oh, okay. That was a good pass, and kind of like that. So, with that, playing from a little early game adversity, thought that was really good to see. And then, watching a little film and watching some of the shows, like with Dan Orlovsky, he mentioned a point to where, Dak, like you said, pre-snap, but once the ball gets snapped to him, a lot of things he does, and this is obviously pre-snap, learning the coverage, seeing what's going to happen, knowing where your routes are and everything, is his shoulder and eye and head work and being able to look off safeties. And like on that CeeDee Lamb one, if you look on the play, he's got a safety high over the middle, and basically he's running that skinny post route, and what he's doing is hiking the ball. He gets the ball, and he literally turns, boom, 1 second, sees that safety, adjusts his body just a little bit, and then flips and throws an absolute laser in a tight window to CeeDee Lamb. And so I thought that was really impressive to see him do stuff like that. Obviously, the footwork and everything, it's good to see that Dak Prescott's legs still work again. And that's got to be a big part of his game going forward, because it just shows how, it's just another element they got to pay attention to. That's kind of the big things I had written down. A to A plus, and being able to do some of those other intangible things really well. To have a game like this, and 31 passes, like we've talked about, that's kind of the golden area of where you like Dak Prescott from 26 to 32, 34. Any more than that, and you're like, it's kind of like that's when it seems to not go as well. So really good game from him. Probably one of his, if not his best game this year.
Yeah, I agree. All good points there. And we'll transition into Dallas Cowboys versus the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 9, 3:25 p.m. on Fox. Game is in Philadelphia. We got the little Tinker Tank parade on there on the bottom. So let's go over our keys to success in this game, and then we'll do our score predictions and why. My keys to success in this game for the defense is to minimize, third and short, control that run game, hover a safety atop of A.J. Brown, just minimize the major threats on this field more than anything else. Instead of worrying about the offense as a whole, we need to worry about those key-making playmakers and that dominating run game. The offensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles as a whole is going to be a dominating force in this game. We're going to have to find ways to stop the tush push. If we get the trick is to not get in that scenario where the Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles thrive most of the time is third and short. They do a phenomenal. The Eagles do a much better job than the Cowboys, but Dak Prescott has a tendency to bail us out of 3rd and 5+ scenarios, which I think is mainly on the play caller, unless it's just a clear miss. So we need to eliminate those mistakes or those scenarios offensively for the Cowboys, and just really attack those outside zones offensively for the Dallas Cowboys and power concepts. I think those are key because that's the name of the game for Tony Pollard, is getting outside that tackle box. And you were the first to touch on that a couple weeks ago, but it was kind of that unsung take. But our left tackles are a little banged up. Tyron Smith, I believe he'll play this week. And then, Chuba, I think, got an injury. I'm not sure what his diagnosis is, but I'm not sure he'll be confident enough to go in this game. But I believe Tyron Smith will be ready. But it's important to keep an eye on that. And, of course, Terrence Steele is still recovering from that ACL. Left tackles are banged up. So I believe Dak Prescott will face pressure in this game. Luckily, he's a pretty good quarterback under pressure statistically. So hopefully he keeps his composure. And then that last little touch on defense and offense is, if Hurts is on time, he's going to be money. So once he scrambles and we get that pressure to him, he's extremely limited in his aerial attack. And that's a very positive sign for a guy like Deron Bland, and especially our safeties who are usually working downhill more than they are retreating. And then time of possession for the offense. If we can control the clock and kind of flip the script, if you will, on the Philadelphia Eagles, you could see a very positive outcome in this game. What are your keys to success in this game for the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, a lot of similar points, especially when talking about like A.J. Brown. And I think this is going to kind of go both ways for the Cowboys and the Eagles. Is I think they're going to do whatever they can to take that number one weapon away, and I think that's going to be a key to each team. Is like, A.J. Brown seems to be like similar to like a Travis Kelce for Patrick Mahomes. That's that safety net, but that's also like that big weapon. It's like AJ's down there somewhere, and it always seems to work out. So I think that's the number one is you can't let AJ Brown beat you. And going into my second point, I think that, and this kind of goes in with a couple points. I kind of have like let Dak cook / expose the Philadelphia secondary. I think you've got to go in with the same game plan as what you had with the last couple games, where it's like, hey, let's get our quarterback in the rhythm. Let's let him know, like, hey, we're not doing these 5-yard hitches. We're not going intermediate to middle. We're going intermediate to short. We're going short to intermediate passing. And so we're trying to work the ball down the field and not just check it down. And then third, I think this is going to be a big one, is turnovers. I know with some of the opponents the Philadelphia Eagles been playing, I think the Cowboys do what they do differently is they seem to what's the word I'm looking for? Turn. I mean, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but they convert turnovers into points a lot more than what it seems like a lot of the when Jalen Hurts is turning the ball over and whatnot. It seems like their defense kind of backs them up a lot. It seems with the Cowboys, they seem to capitalize. That's the word I'm looking for. Capitalize on turnovers and really make the teams pay for it rather than, turning it over on downs or going 3 and out, whatnot. So I think we got to win the turnover battle, force a turnover. And then I think this is my prediction. I think Brandon Cooks is going to have to be the playmaker. I think they're going to do whatever they can to stop CeeDee Lamb from having the games he's having. I don't know if they can, but I think, we're in that situation and you're like, dude, they've got, a guy on them, safety over the top of them, stuff like that. I think Brandon Cooks is going to be the big key component here to where he may see 8+ targets this game and have one of those like classic, Brandon Cooks games where you look up and you're like, dude, he's got 7 catches for, 115 yards and a touchdown. But one of his catches was like a 60-yard TD or something like that.
Right.
So
yeah.
I think he's going to be the big thing on offense. I completely agree with what you said on defense, kind of get, Jalen Hurts kind of out of rhythm a little bit. But I also think that if the Eagles want to play that game that they've tried to play with Jalen Hurts on everywhere else, where it's like, we're going to force him to throw the ball, I don't think that's going to work out very well. I think our secondary is going to be one of the better secondaries they've played. And I just don't think, I think for the Eagles to succeed, they've got to do what they did well last year and be very run heavy, run dominant. And like we've talked about with running quarterbacks against the Cowboys, use him as part of that main game plan. And that's what gives them a lot of trouble is rushing quarterbacks. And so, the biggest thing is going to be contain him and keep him off rhythm. But did you give a score?
No, I was about to ask you I was going to let you do yours first and I'll follow.
Okay, I'm going in pretty confident with this, especially now. I'm going in confident if we keep the same game plan and stuff that we've been doing and implement it against the Eagles. I'm very confident. If we revert back to like, oh, we're playing a better team, we can't take chances, then I'm not very confident. But I'm going to go in confident. I'm going to be glass half full. I'm going to go with 28-24 Dallas.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with my gut in this game because I ignored it when we went against it. Well, I listened to it. I'm sorry. When we went against the 49ers, and fortunately I was correct, but I was praying that I'd be wrong. I think Dallas Cowboys, I don't know yet if they're still all talk, and I don't know how they're going to perform against arguably it's a number 1 or 2 or 3 team in the NFL. And I'm not sure Dallas is quite there yet. Although, do I believe that they can be? Yes, but they have to show me this game. I just still haven't seen it. I've seen it against those average teams that we should beat up on, and those are impressive to say the least. And I think this is going to be a very, very close game, and I think we're going to play them well. But I think the Eagles come out on top 27-23. with a W in Philadelphia. And then I think we possibly could beat the brakes off of them in AT&T weeks down the road after we win 3 or 4 games or so, because after this game versus Philadelphia, we've got 4 games in a row that on the schedule should be easy wins until we hit the December gauntlet of Philadelphia, Miami, Buffalo, and Detroit. So if we win this game, and then by the next time we play the Philadelphia Eagles, we win those next 4 as well, we would be sitting at 10-2. And then if we lose and we win those next 4 games, we're sitting at 9-3. I'll take both.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, and I just think it'd be really nice to see the Cowboys perform like they should against a good team. And I'm hoping to speak it not into existence, but I'm going with my gut here. I have confidence in the Cowboys. I want to see it first. So I'm going to be realistic. I got the Eagles 27, Cowboys 23. Nice. But yeah, and my mamas don't let you Cowboys is mamas don't let you Cowboys let the Eagles tush push our ass. Nice. And the reason why is because it's practically unstoppable. So
yeah, my mamas don't let you Cowboys is mamas don't let you Cowboys start off the game slow. We kind of saw it with the Rams. We've talked about the Rams. We don't know if they're good or bad. They're good enough to beat bad teams, bad enough to get blown out by good teams. I don't think with the Eagles you could start off getting sacked 3 out of the first 5 plays, and it worked out very well for you. So mamas don't let your Cowboys start off the Philadelphia Eagle games slow.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. Sorry, my phone popped up, and the score really hasn't changed in the World Series. Yeah, but the Jonah Heim just cranked another home run, so it's 11-1 in the 8th inning.
Still a 10-point game.
It's nice to see him hit the ball. Don't think I've seen him actually get on base in a long time.
No, they were actually talking about it earlier, how he's been struggling.
Yeah, it's been bad. He's got these big whiffs when he swings. But all right, moving into the breakdown, and that includes, to start off, our 2-minute drill brought to you by the medical guy, and followed by the analyst who I will be covering for. And I'll be able to provide Russell Wilson's pass chart and more. But to begin us with the injury, which you also have a kind of a different way that you're kind of playing it this week, correct?
Yes. So starting off the DB list, the injury, or not the DB list, the 2-minute drill, and just the injury analysis. I'm going to go through the list of injuries, and then I'm going to pick one out and show the video of it. It's not too bad. It's not like a Nick Chubb one. But I'll kind of explain kind of in depth, where you're supposed to be looking at and what you're looking at, and then kind of just explain the injury and the rehab process as whole. But I'm going to go through the list first, pull up the video. This will be a trial by fire and air, so hopefully everything works.
We'll get it figured out.
Yeah, but first we're going to start off Kendrick Bourne, torn ACL. He's out. Last few games, he's actually been getting, I think it was like 10 to 12 targets a game. Kind of been a pretty decent fantasy pick, but tough to see that injury. What I talked about earlier is someone on this defense for the Kansas City Chiefs that is a big contributor, and it's going to be real interesting, is Nick Bolton. He had a wrist injury, and he is going to the IR, so he is out for at least the next 4 weeks. He's a big-time linebacker in the middle of that field for that defense, bringing pressure, everything like that. So it's going to be interesting to watch for that Chiefs defense. Matt Stafford with a right thumb UCL sprain. One of the acronyms in there, UCL, you think about that in your elbow. You also have one in your thumb. It's on that right thumb, the one you throw with, or one he throws with. So it'll be real interesting looking at, how the offense kind of moves when, we've seen how, like with Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott, and I think it was Derek Carr, and I think even Drew Brees, they had those thumb injuries, and it takes them a little bit to get used to it and whatnot. So it's going to be real interesting to see how that plays out, especially with those receivers that they have. You got Puka Nacua, had a little knee swelling, said he's going to be all right this week. We'll just keep an eye on that. Darren Waller had to leave the game for a hamstring injury. He's known for kind of a more explosive, agile tight end. Like I've said before, those soft tissue injuries for those explosive players don't work out well. And then unfortunately for this guy, Tyrod Taylor, man, he had to go to the hospital for his ribs. I know a couple years ago he had to do the same thing. A little different this time than last time. Nobody got sued or fired from their job like they did last time. But it seems like everything's checked out okay. But however, if he's not able to play, I don't know what the Giants are going to do, because I don't know if Daniel Jones is going to be back or not. Which leads to my next one. Daniel Jones with his neck is still questionable. So I don't know. They might have like the Broncos a few years ago when all their quarterbacks went out to a party and got COVID and couldn't play. It might be like that, where they might be calling in the Rook, Jared May, to come play quarterback for the New York Giants. So
should I play better than Daniel Jones, low key?
Yeah. And then last one on here is, or the last one that I'm going to mention, and then I'm going to go into explanation, is going into this Cowboy game. You got Jalen Carter. Ended up having a back injury. For those people up front, there's so much stress put on the back when you're having, basically to control, getting pulled or thrown around, whether you're on the line. And same thing with, like, you end up at the bottom of the pile all the time. It's never a good thing with back, and backs for dudes like that and people on O-line or D-line usually don't work out too well. But next is our Kirk Cousins injury, kind of the big one of the week. It's an Achilles injury.
Right.
I'm actually going to pull up the video I have of it, if you'll allow me to share my screen.
Yep. Go ahead. And I should be able to view it on the bottom here. It's always a fun process getting this. You never know. When I do mine at the beginning of the pod, usually it's like the heave of the week itself,
Yeah. So you let me know, because I'm just looking at us right now.
Oh, okay. So go to the bottom and you'll press present.
All right. Share screen.
Yep. And then there should be like a tab you click on.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there you go. Here we are.
All right. So
and then you can operate per usual.
Yeah, so I'm going to make it like that, okay? And I'm going to slow the speed down by a little bit, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at his right leg, so kind of in the calf area, and it's going to go slow. But what you have is that Achilles. What it is it's a tendon that attaches, or really the calf attaches to the tendon. And I'm going to play it right here.
Oh.
Okay, I'm going to turn that sound off, because it came through kind of weird on mine.
Luckily, it wasn't too loud, so
okay.
I definitely saw it.
Yeah. So what you're going to look at is that right calf. And so what happens is when you go into that extreme dorsiflexion, or when that foot comes up, and if it tears, it looks like the easiest term is like a quiver through that calf. And what that is it's that. So if you look, boom, right there where that calf kind of jerks up like that. So now that we've all seen that, what it is think of like when you're holding a rubber band from two ends and you cut it at one end and it shoots back up to your finger. Okay. And that's what it's doing, is that muscle, that calf that comes down and connects, is shooting back up towards the calf. And so what that calf allows you to do is basically move your foot like that. And so that's why you saw, if you watch the rest of the play, he took a step and couldn't do anything. And so, it's a brutal injury. And we had one early in the year with Aaron Rodgers. They're brutal injuries. They're tough injuries. And basically what you have to do is essentially reconnect the tendon and more or less tie it up, basically, and then have that surgery and whatnot. And then you spend the next 6+ months trying to stretch that tendon back out to its normal length. And so it really is kind of a gruesome injury. And it's honestly almost probably a more gruesome rehab, because you go from attaching a tendon and letting your foot stay in a fixed position for a few weeks, and then all you're doing is working it way back, trying to get it to straighten out again. Okay. And so it isn't necessarily career ending or anything like that, especially since he's a quarterback. It's just tough that it, like we've talked about before, is that it's coming off a season where he's been decent and playing without some of his weapons, and then going into a contract year. And so that's where you got to look at that. However, I mean, he should be fine by next season. But yeah, so the return table will probably be about 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of the little new analysis I'm trying to do to try to explain and show just a little more insight to the injury thing and kind of if you've seen it before or if you see it again or whatever, like, oh, well, that's that. That looks like that when they slow it down and whatnot. So just something that's kind of what I do every day and have to deal with. So it's something I just want to share with everybody and all that.
I must say that was badass. So we got the visual and we got the analysis of what can happen and the process of rehab all in about less than 5 minutes. So like, and the analogy I was going to bring up, and I'm glad I didn't interrupt you because you brought it up perfectly. I was going to say, it looks like a rubber band, like vibrating and dispersing as if you were watching like a Christopher Nolan movie and everything's just like spiraling and vibrating. And you could see it. And now when you see those replays, moving on to the next week, or hopefully we don't see any more of those. We can always disperse whether they were on turf or grass, whatever. But for weeks to come, when you're watching these injuries and we've gone over these diagnoses and probably going to post them, right? And we see them and we can identify them. So, and go, oh, rehab is this long because that was awesome. Fantastic job there. And I'll close out the 2-minute drill with some of the analysts' takes right here. And he titles it the NFC Beast.
Sure.
What's up?
Hold on. We're missing one part.
Oh, give him that DB list, son.
The DB list. Now, fortunately, you've already mentioned it, but on my DB list are the damn umpires for what's going on in the World Series right now. And then I want to specify, especially in the American League, we saw it in the ALCS, both sides. And I mean, it's just pushing more and more towards having an automatic strike zone or having a challenging system, which I think would be better than automatic strike zone, because then, I mean, basically just have a catcher somewhere back there. And it kind of takes a human error out of it a little bit, but having the ability to challenge it, I think, not only keeps umpires in check, but also keeps the hitter in check. So, what?
Oh, no, that looked like you threw in a little Zen baby.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, man, this mid-pod, he was like mid-talk. You're like, and I was like, oh, shit. No. All right. Yeah, a little Tucker Carlson there.
No, I'm not that smooth with it. But it kind of would hold each side accountable, right? A hitter's like, oh, dude, that's not a strike. This is BS, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, oh, well, let's challenge it. Oh, it is a strike, so get the F on. And so that's just kind of my DB list. It's gotten, I mean, really bad. I don't really remember it being that bad.
Especially in the postseason.
And it's gotten so bad at the biggest stages. And I mean, last night, I know it was a Rangers pitcher, but it was a 3-1 count. And Jose Leclerc at the end of the game. Like, brother, that ball was 3 inches off the plate. Like that would have hit. If that would have hit the dirt, that's hitting the chalk of the white.
I want to talk about that specifically because what got the headlines was the 3-1 pitch. What didn't get the headlines was the 2-0 pitch, which was a right down the middle strike on a slider that was not called a strike, which made it 3-1, which then we were owed that call that was off the plate by like 3 or 4 centimeters or, half a baseball, whatever it was. Which wasn't a strike. It's just awful. It's just awful umpiring. And to go back to your point with the challenge, they're trying to speed up baseball. So there's got to be a way you can regulate a challenge that is quick and easy, that's wired direct to the umpire and say, have a signal that goes, look, I don't know if that was a ball or a strike. And then they go, that was a strike according to our AI. And then
in the minor leagues in AAA, they've been, because that's where they test everything out, is they've been testing it. And so all it is like, hey, umpire calls a strike, batter thinks it's a ball, they look up, tap their head. Because I know the outfielder for the Yankees, they had a video of him doing it, the Dominguez guy. And when he was in AAA, and he taps his head and he takes a step out of the box, they look up there and they literally wired in, and on the big screen it says ball was changed or strike was changed to a ball. And it was like done within like 8 seconds, maybe.
Perfect.
And so
then they definitely need to do that.
Like, I don't know. It's just funny. It just sounds too easy. It's like, what? Like,
yes,
oh, it's too simple. We're not going to do it. It's like,
it seems self-explanatory. I understand human error is one thing, but when you're ranked like bottom, near 2% of bottom of the barrel umpiring in the postseason when it matters the most, which affected both the Astros and the Rangers, like you said, especially in the AL. Something needs to be changed because I didn't think humans got that bad.
And I think I've read like the last 2, maybe 3 games, the umpires have been like, out of the 92 umpires or whatever, I think they've been like 58th, 64th, and like 72nd. I'm like, hey, bro, where the studs at? Like, get those dudes.
Where they at?
like, treat them like the players and bring in your top 15 and just rotate them. Like, damn.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just been so bad. So down bad list are umpires, especially in the playoffs and specifically with the ALCS, and then seeing the calls kind of going against the Rangers and whatnot.
Awesome. All right. Well, 2-minute drill with the analysis part of the spectrum. I'll share my screen. We'll go through our Russell Wilson passing chart, and this is a good one. Let me go through it real quick. Here we go. So, as you can see, we had 12 of 19, 114 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions with a negative 2.4 CPOE. I don't even know how that's possible.
How do you do that?
I don't even. Anyway, touchdown pass behind the line of scrimmage. Not sure how that's possible. 2 boundary dots, 20 yards downfield. I believe one of them was to Jerry Jeudy. The rest of his completions were at or behind the line of scrimmage. I know it was snowing, or that it was a snow game, but the field was completely, it was unaffected because they got heated fields. So you're out there doing this. I don't even know what this is. This looks like crap. And then of course you got the one bomb. What is that? 30. That's 37 yards down the field, probably to somebody like Marvin Mims. But this is a typical Russell Wilson pass chart. No pass completions over the middle, 2 incompletions over the middle, and somehow 12 completions, 3 touchdowns with I don't even know. Wow. Yeah. Anyways, that's Russell Wilson for you. And then, of course, Ryan the analyst talks about the NFC beast, AJ Charlie Brown, transitions us into Thanksgiving mode, breaking the record for consecutive games with 125 plus yards receiving. And CD had a little lamb transition into a goat versus the Rams, going 12 for 158, 2 touchdowns. And he's been a huge factor for Dallas's success. These two will be facing one another this Sunday for the NFC Beast Showdown. We're going to have the kids' picks provided later on this week, but we're going to transition now into my portion of the podcast, the Rooks, Looks, Start 'em, Sit 'em. And thank God, thank the Lord above us, they're finally good this week. So after, I would say, 3 or 4 weeks of just being on the DB list, you could argue, we're back. I told everybody a little recap of week 8. Told everybody to start Deontay Johnson, cha-ching, 16.50 PPR points, 8 receptions, 85 yards. Like I mentioned last week, revamped offense with him being back in the mix. Possession receiver, he's going to get healthy targets. He had 14. Start Devontae Smith. I had a feeling that the wide receiver from Philadelphia was going to have a little breakout game. Luckily for fantasy owners, both him and A.J. Brown had a great game, but 22.90 PPR points, 7 receptions, 90 yards, and a tutty. That's a weak Washington secondary. I said he is the Washington Commanders killer. And then I told everybody to sit DeAndre Hopkins. I believe that Malik Willis was supposed to start this game, but they subbed in Will Levis, and the dude balled out. 4 catches out of 6 targets, 128 yards, and 3 touchdowns. 3 of them, of course, from Will Levis, who threw 4 touchdowns in this game. And then, of course, we had sit Darrell Henderson, running back from the Los Angeles Rams. You could argue this is a kind of a gray area. I didn't really know if this is a green bean or not, but 11.50 PPR points for Darrell Henderson. 12 carries, 31 yards. So they shut him down on the ground, but he had those 3 catches for 54 yards. I think he broke out a little 20-yard screen. But other than that, he was he was minimized in this game. My sleeper of the week was T. Higgins, the wide receiver for Cincinnati. I said he was going to get back in the mix of things. Looking pretty healthy over here. He had 5 catches for 69 yards versus a tough defense and the San Francisco 49ers. This is a confident sign for fantasy managers going forward, in my opinion, 11.90 PPR points. Now, moving into week 9, let's see if I can keep the streak for the Rooks looks and stay frosty. But we have a lot of rookies, which is kind of fitting to my name, but a lot of rookies in this startup system. Dalton Kincaid, Buffalo tight end. Dawson Knox is on the IR. He has heavy involvement the last 2 weeks. I expect 5+ or more targets and red zone looks moving forward for Dalton Kincaid. Start Quentin Johnson, Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver. Josh Palmer banged up. Mike Williams got hurt earlier in the year. You saw an immediate impact from Quentin Johnson as soon as Josh Palmer left the game. I believe he had 5 or so catches for like 50 or so yards in less than a game. So be looking for Quentin Johnson on your radars. Sit Will Levis, Tennessee quarterback. I spoke very highly of him, but the Thursday night football game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's a short week. It's his first primetime game with a short week in his career against a very formidable defense. Mike Tomlin does a great job against most opposing quarterbacks that he faces. I think everybody should be lax for this game when you're going after him in fantasy, although people will probably just yank at the chain. So if you want to get ahead of the game, go ahead and grab him. But the following week, he should be maybe back to seeing Will Levis. But maybe he surprises me. I hope he surprises me. I like the guy. Sit Jordan Addison, Minnesota wide receiver. They traded for Josh Dobbs. It was going to be Jalen Hall for a minute. I'm not sure what to expect. I still expect some healthy targets from Jordan Addison, but I don't know what to expect. So I would stash him on your bench for a week and just kind of test the waters. And don't put your foot in the water, but just kind of test the waters with a little thermometer with him on your bench, and then have that immediate regret when he scores 35 this week. But sleeper, Chuba Hubbard, Carolina running back. He overthrew Miles Sanders with a 67% snap count for the Carolina Panthers in their victory against the Texans. No run game for the Carolina Panthers, but he's always been kind of involved in the passing game, so you could see some upside, maybe a Rashad White type of a flex player this week. And of course, per usual, to close out the Rooks looks, I have the heave of the week, which I have now mastered, and I'm excited to show everybody. This one is Dak Prescott to Brandon Cooks. So this is what I've been waiting for a long time, to do a heave of the week for Dakota Rain Prescott. So here, I'll share my screen for you guys right quick. We got the volume down, and we are ready to go. All right.
Give us a play-by-play.
All right. Oh. Here we go. 17-36 Dallas Cowboys lead. Just the start of the fourth quarter here. 4 seconds left on the play clock. Dak Prescott in the shotgun, single backfield with doubles high on your top of your screen. Prescott takes a snap, faces a 5-man rush, and heaves it deep to Brandon Cooks, who cooks the receiver on the ground. Number 44, you are unemployed.
Oh, dude, that worked perfectly.
Awesome.
And it didn't cut out at all. Perfect.
Awesome. Good deal. And of course, that is our heave of the week. And we will now transition into our tier list of our week 9 NFL TRAK hierarchy tier list. And we're going to start off with the medical guy giving us his tier list. So what you got in your top 10?
All right. So I've actually made my first actual tier list. There's no top 10. Awesome. Would you like the screen to be shared or no?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. So let's do this twice. Here we go.
We're getting better as we get along, as we go along. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Okay. It's not letting me share a photo.
Oh, go to window. Check window on your.
Yeah, there we go. Share. All
I'm
right.
Like support in this hoe.
How's that looking? Looking good?
There we go.
All right. So I've made a tier list because it seems I don't know what the hell I'm talking about putting anybody in a top 10. So we went from top to bottom. And what I really should have had is I should have had a poverty or worst teams in the league list as well. Because any team the Cowboys play all of a sudden automatically goes to the very bottom of the NFL. Might as well be a Division II or NAIA football team. That's just how it goes with the media. So as you can see, though, I have my tiers in good, okay, I don't have a clue what I'm talking about, bad, and bad but young. So we'll start off with the bad but young. We got the Houston Bulls on parade. Bulls on parade. Texans. You got C.J. Stroud Boyd back there. He's been swinging the rock. However, he lost to the Panthers, which was surprising to me. But we've got them at bad but young. Speaking of the Panthers, we've got what seems like the better quarterback of the draft, Bryce Young, because he beat C.J. Stroud for the Panthers and
childhood friends.
Yeah, so it's really hard not to put the Panthers at bad since they have essentially been winless until they played the other bad team, the Texans. So I have them bad but young. And now a team that is going to be bad and young with no players, the Washington Commanders. I just kind of feel sorry for them because I didn't think they were that bad. Like they do some things that are good. Their offense seems like they can kind of sling it a little bit, and Sam Howell seems to be similar like Taylor Heineke. Like he could go out there and be like hey boys, sit down and let daddy work and stuff like that, right, and sling it. And then some games you're like,
Bush Light.
Yeah, you're like, hey bro, good. Just hand the ball off. Like, don't ever throw a football again. And then next we have the Chicago Bears. You could put them in the I don't know as well because I don't think they know what they're doing. So they're going to be in the bad but young. You could put their front office in the I don't knows because who knows. Then last I have the Colts, obviously because they lost the quarterback. They've got Gardner Minshew. Got a lot of young pieces around them. I don't know. I really don't know what's going on at running back for them. Apparently, they've got two stud running backs, and they paid one $1 billion, and the other one can be just as good as him. So they're kind of in an interesting position, but they're pretty young, and so they seem like they could be sneaky. Next, we'll go with bad. We've got the Arizona Cardinals, who apparently aren't going to play Kyler Murray. They're going to play Clayton Tune. So we'll see how great that goes. There's not much to say on them. However, they have played. They did beat the Cowboys, so there's that. Next is the Steelers. I think they're a bad football team. I don't think their offense is very good. I think their defense is good just because they wear a Steelers jersey and everybody thinks they're good. Just because the Steelers are known for having a good defense, but I don't think it's very good. Next is the Patriots. This is probably the worst position you could be in because they drafted their guy. He's still got a couple years left. They have no weapons on offense. Their defense has one weapon, which I did get C.J. Jackson back, but I mean, they just look like they just suck. Next is the Titans, which, I mean, you could move them into bad but young as well. However, they really just have two young guys on their team, and that's Treylon Burks, who's not any good, and and Will Levis, who apparently can throw a ball, to the moon. And also DeAndre Hopkins, didn't know if you knew this, Jared, but he's still good. So, maybe you throw it to him a couple times. Somehow a team in a worse position is the New York Giants. They could also be put on the DB list. Don't think they're very good. Their quarterback situation and team situation is just awful. Next is the Packers. Don't know what's going on there. Is LaFleur any good? We don't know. Is Love any good?
That's a young team too.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. However, their O-line is pretty bad, so I just have them at bad. And then the Raiders and the Broncos. I don't think I need to explain anything with either of them.
Don't get me started on the Raiders.
Yeah,
oh my God.
The Raiders. Quarterback's not very good. And Devontae Adams looked like he would rather be punching himself in the face than actually playing football and getting hit in the face.
I will say this about the Raiders. I watched the Rangers game last night, Monday night, and we won. And I was very happy because we're up 2-1 in the series, about to be up 3-1. And I flipped to the Monday Night Football game with less than 4 minutes left to play. And I was like, let's see how this game ends. Raiders have a chance to do something here. Devontae Adams hits a double hezzy, dig, go, wide open. And dude, I've never been so mad at a quarterback I never even cared about in the first place. You're in the NFL and you miss that throw. It is beyond me how that happens. It for some reason that throw aggravated the absolute hell out of me because I already knew Tay was upset. And man, oh my god.
Yeah. So to make you even more mad, that was his third one that game to do that.
Yeah, thankfully I only scored first. I would have shot myself or slit my throat with this knife on my breastplate here.
Yeah, there we go. It could have been like Ricky Bobby, stab yourself in the leg. Next we have the Denver Broncos. Receivers good, quarterback bad. And then next we'll move into I have no damn clue if these teams are good or bad or okay. And most of them are not young.
For that. Yeah.
So I've got the Chargers. Yeah, no clue. The Jets, they beat good teams, and then they get beat 40-3 or whatever it was by the Cowboys. So you have no clue. The Saints could easily be put in the bad. The reason I haven't is because they have so many talented weapons on that team. It's just like I just can't put them at bad. The Falcons, kind of the same way. I think they need a quarterback change. I think if they go with Heineke, it's going to work out a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think Ritter just kind of had his fooled for a game or two, but in his career, he just hasn't been great. Same with the Baker Mayfields. This kind of list right here is kind of sums it up as like can beat bad teams, could steal one or two from a good team, but ultimately they're not. I don't know.
Yeah, which is exactly how you described the Rams last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever it was.
The Rams are, if you could picture like, when you're drafting in fantasy football and you like see a name and you're like, oh yeah, they're still good, or I need to get that. That's what the Rams kind of look like to me. It's like they've got Stafford, they've got Donald, they've got these guys, and it's like, but they're not really like. Obviously, some of the singular players like Cooper Kupp is good, but like we didn't know who Puka Nacua was or Atwell was, and it's just like, what the hell? And it's like we don't know if they're good or not. And then the Vikings, unfortunately, due to injuries, are kind of in that I don't know if they're good or not. Okay. Next, we're gonna get into the OKs. Okay. Honestly, I probably could have put the Bengals in the good, but when you start off 0-4, I can't put you in the good just yet. So we've got Joe Burrow. We've got Mr. 7-Eleven himself. We've got Mr. Broken Ribs, T. Higgins. He's good to go now. He's in that thing. Joe Mixon, 1-2 punch knockout playing, and they seem to be doing good. So I have an okay. Next, we have the Bills. The reason I have the Bills in okay is because
team
it literally their team is like their quarterback and their team are defined the same. He could be just the best player in the league for 5 games in a row and then have 3 where you're like, dude, what are you doing? And so that's just kind of with them. The Browns, I have them at okay just because their quarterback's not very good. I think the rest of their team is actually pretty decent, but their quarterback, PJ Walker is not good, not as well athletically and talent-wise. I think he's like at a ceiling like a C+.
I would say so.
And then their other quarterback is just an F. Deshaun Watson. He's just he's an F as a player and as a human being.
Yeah, for a rating, I'd probably give him a 69.
Yeah. So if we put Deshaun Watson in a category, it would be bad. And so next we move into good. We've got the Cowboys, the Dolphins, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, the Jaguars, the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Lions, and the 49ers. And if the 49ers don't figure it out, they're going to go to okay. So that's kind of my list of the top 32 teams or however many teams are in the NFL. Obviously, you can take the ones that the Cowboys have beat and put them in poverty because you know how the media spins it. But you know, you kind of figure out who my top 10 is, top 9, top 10 in that top good category. But that's kind of how I did it because it seems like every week I put somebody in my top 10 and they get beat and I can't keep going with my same route. And this past week, multiple of my top 10 got beat. So it was like, if I did a top 10, like the freaking Titans would be in the top 10. So I can't do that. So
yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
we got to remain professional somehow.
Dude, it was tough when I was trying to make my top 10 earlier. I was like, dude, these teams, I can't put these in here. So
you have 9. You have 9 that are in your good category, which everyone would definitely argue that you need to put them in your top 10. So it worked out great. And those okay and I don't know teams are always hovering between top 10 and not worth a shit. So
no, I don't know. It's just like every other week. It's like, dude, what the hell is going on? Like, figure it out. And funny enough, all those in that I don't know are either 4-4 or 3-4. So it ended up working out perfect. So I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna just roll with this. So
makes complete sense. Well, I have a tier list as well. And I posted this one to Twitter not too long ago.
You got like 12 different categories.
I'm not sure if people can see. I'm gonna go to full screen here and see if I can actually see it myself. So okay, yeah, you're watching it. You can probably see that. Okay. All right. So number 1, I'll start from the bottom and work my way up. We still got the Tonight We Are Young category. Same thing as you. Packers, Commanders, Falcons, and Cardinals. Obviously, if you're watching this, you should probably look at the tier list so you can see it or go to Twitter. Gavin Newsom made the call. 49ers have lost 3 straight. The Rams got routed by the Cowboys, and the Chargers beat the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football. First win of the season goes to the Panthers. So they're in there. Everybody beats Houston, apparently. Tough week for the city of Houston. The refs are against us. Mike McDaniel's kind of gone AWOL on Twitter, going after the officiating crews, as well as Deontay Johnson in the locker room with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then, of course, the Achilles injury. I would say this category also would mean 0-1 versus science. So Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is bound on faith. Aaron Rodgers is bound spiritually. So apparently both did not work for the Achilles, which sucks. And then you got what the is going on, and that's with the Saints, and that's with the freaking Bills. Like you said, you don't know who's going to move the wagons for the Bills. And as far as the Saints go, I mean, Derek Carr's in heave mode half the time. They will only beat you if they can field goal your ass to death. Yeah. But then they all of a sudden score 40 points this week. So I don't know. All right, played Taylor Swift and paid the price. And that's the Chiefs and that's the Broncos. You play Taylor Swift at your home stadium, you get karma by getting played Taylor Swift at the opposing team stadium. And then the NFC Beast, this one's actually for real. The Eagles and the Cowboys. I think they're very, very close to running the NFC. And then greatest shows on turf, apparently, the Tennessee Titans with Will Levis. I mean, this is the greatest show on turf, apparently. And I bet his wife or his ex-girlfriend is the greatest show on the bed. But we're gonna pause. But the Ravens, Seahawks, Bengals, Jaguars, these dudes, they're guys. We got guys out there playing the greatest show on turf. And then Poverty City had to put them at number 1. The city of Houston, get fucked. So
he forgot the Giants. They don't even count.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of teams. Yeah, there's a couple of teams that are not included in this because these are special categories.
There we go.
But yeah, that is my tier list going into that. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of give a little breakdown of some movement in the actual top 10. I've got, and I'll just share the list and I'll give you all a quick peep, and then we'll wrap this puppy up. Here we are. We've got a little categorization here. Philadelphia Eagles at number 1. They move up 4 slots. Kansas City Chiefs move down 3 slots. Miami Dolphins stay where they're at number 5. The Cowboys move up 2 slots. Remember, they're not going past 6 until they beat somebody relevant.
Yeah.
So they are not going to be a top 5 team until that happens. The Bills, I put these 3 teams in the same spot for a reason. The Miami Dolphins, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Buffalo Bills, because we will play one another come December. And the rankings will matter then more than it does now. But the Bills and the Cowboys are streaky teams, as well as the Dolphins. They're all 3 are streaky teams who have not proven they can beat a great team. So we'll see. The Lions kind of stay where they're at. Bengals make their way into the top 10, and the Seattle Seahawks rounded up at number 10. That is the adjustment period from week 8 into week 9. And then we got our track records of the week. My track record is since I'm Ghost from Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3 coming out soon in November. But my KD in Modern Warfare 2019 was 1.43. So if you want to get with it, a little bit of CyberTax search playlist, hit me up on Twitch. I'll be on there as 9mm9 on Xbox.
9mm Peter 9.
9mm Peter 9. I got the little tactical setup here with the knife and the comms. So we're ready to go. I almost put my 9 in that thing, but like I said, I'm not John Morant. But yeah, 1.43 KD. Fuck when we do. But
I do was like that one video just in there grinding, like just sweat rolling down his face and everything.
He's like,
that thing. Yeah, just face to screen.
He's sweating.
Yeah, that's what you were doing. Yeah.
That'd be Travis sometimes, low key.
Oh yeah, we've all been there. Hey, during COVID, when none of us were working and Warzone came out, you already know.
Oh,
you already should know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get to my records of the week. We're gonna go with the Dallas Cowboys and Los Angeles Rams score 40-23. Scoregami. Okay.
Scoregami.
That had never happened before. My other one was going to be the AJ Brown record, but since it's, I guess, Eagles week, they didn't want to mention that. So I went with the Dallas Cowboys 40-23, which honestly doesn't seem like that rare of a score.
Or 43-20. Yeah.
Oh, was it 43-20?
Yeah, 43-20.
Oh, okay.
But it is a scoregami. Yeah.
Yeah, 43-20. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, ruined the whole thing. 43-20. First time it's ever been done. So go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys. How about them? All right. That wraps up track 20, the Lightskin War. You can see the clicker on the bottom. We've got all of our socials up there. You can follow the TRAK pod on Instagram at trak.pod. We'll be posting a lot of memes. We got our meme guy on it. Me and him usually collab and create the content you see on TikTok as well. You can find us there on trak.pod, x.com, formerly Twitter, at the TRAK pod. And then find the link tree in all of our bios on Instagram, Twitter, and all the above to find all of our episodes. You can support the podcast on Patreon if you would like, and become a member. I believe it's nothing, but it's up to you. You know what I mean? It's a donation if you want to help us buy our $600 video mixer whenever we get a freaking setup. Shit's expensive around here, but we're making content. We're growing. We're getting some good engagement on the social media outlets, and per usual, medical guy, thanks for joining. Happy Halloween to everybody. For those who celebrate, Christ is King. And we've got the Ghost and Dwayne The Rock Johnson up in this hoe. Bravo 6, going dog.